This is a bit of a compilation. So, over the course of a couple days, I gave Stevie some more love. Stevie's the 1974 Crown, the Atomic Energy Commission bus that we got out of the salvage yard up in Roberts, Idaho. And I changed the oil, putting in new fuel filters, changed the coolant filter and the coolant, and put new tires on the front, changed the axle, the tag axle, and the front wheel bearing caps, the hub caps. Not like decorative hub caps, but the hub caps, the seal caps. Stevie, the 1974 Crown Atomic, is getting new shoes on the front. So the front tires definitely need to be replaced, and I've got new ones for the front end. I'm going to change out the tires, so I will start the bus up here in a second and move it over there where I can jack up the front end, take the wheels off, and change the front tires. But let me start it up. I did show this in a different video about tire changing on the side of the road, but while I'm here, let me just show you another example of the L for left-handed threads. So if you are sitting here trying to unscrew these that way, it won't come off and you'll end up breaking something, maybe you. So anyway, to loosen these, you go that way. This is the driver's side of a bus. All right, Stevie's getting some love. I mentioned that she got new shoes, new front tires. While I had the front end up in the air, I got under it with a pry bar and made sure that I didn't find any play in the steering linkage or the kingpins up there. Everything seems tight. And after I put the new tires on, she cruises much better. I can cruise at 70 or 75 without any of the issues I had before with the old tires. I do have some Centromatic wheel balancers on order for the front, which will smooth out a little bit of any remaining vibration. I hope. I don't have the ability to balance the front tires, and I've tried the beads inside the tires, not convinced they really work. So the next thing I'm doing is changing and checking all the fluid in the hubs here, and this was so dirty you couldn't tell the oil level, the hub oil level inside the hub there. And then of course when they get old and brittle and you try to pull the cap out, it just snaps like that. So I've got new ones, front and back. I'll show you taking out the front ones, but these are the hub seal kits, and it has the new center ring, a new gasket, and then this screws back in place. This is a Stemco hub seal, and my local Napa has those, which is great. And then I try to get as much of the lube out as I can if I'm changing it, just because I don't know if that stuff's any good. I did get in there and check, and there's no metal or anything like that, so that feels good. Anyway, this is the back end. This is the tag axle, and then this is a drive axle that's different. And on your bus, you're going to have these on the front hubs as well. So I'll come around and change those. But you see how dark that is. I can't tell if there's oil in there or not. and that's not a good thing. And then in the back here, this is an 8V71 engine. Obviously, it's dirty. We live down 3 miles of dirt road, and that's the color of the dirt here. So it looks like it's rust, but it's just the dirt. I needed a new coolant filter. The one that was on it when I picked it up in that salvage yard was so rusted and corroded on the outside, I couldn't get a number off it. But Napa for the win. So many places nowadays, if you don't have a part number, you go in, the people at the counter can't find you a comparable part. But Napa was able to find this for me. So the coolant filter for this, in the Napa brand anyway, is a 4070. I changed all the coolant, put in new coolant. Down below here, doing an oil change. I pulled out the plug yesterday. I did run the bus first and air it up, and that gave me enough room under here with the airbags inflated to get the pan under there, and now it's sitting on blocks. So I pulled out the drain pan plug, sorry about the focus there, and took off the oil filter, which is in here. In there. And that oil filter is a Napa 1133. So it goes like that, and I've got a new gasket in there too. So I let it drain overnight. I will put in the proper oil, which is a CF2 rated, and I'll show you what I'm using there. I've got 3 different options here at the house. And then after I get the oil changed, I will change these fuel filters here. Can't quite tell the number on that one, 85120, and this one is an 86118. These are CarQuest numbers. I'll show you what I got in the Napa brand. One thing I should point out is there is a vent hole in the center of that, where there should be. In the center of that is a tiny little hole, and on the one that was there, it's plugged up. So as the temperature changes in here, the air in there will expand and contract, and it needs to be able to vent. If that can't vent out that hole, it'll pressurize your hub, and it could force, gear oil, hub oil, somewhere that you don't want it. So that's another reason to get this changed. Nice and clean that is. Look how nice and clean that was. I make myself laugh. Got to. This is not something you'll have to do often, but if you've got a bus, it's a good maintenance item, just to see that you can check your fill levels. if you have a new bus, a new to you bus, it's a good idea to do that anyway. Pull these off, get your finger in there, see if you've got any fines, any sign of bearing wear metal inside it. There may be a torque spec for these. I'm sure there is. I don't know what it is. Don't snap anything. That's all right. And there's my plug. I will go around and change out the others and then come around and fill them to the level. If your bus does not have a tag axle, which it probably doesn't, then you'll only have the front hubs to worry about. And let me show you here. So if I try to pull this rubber cap out, oh man, see, it's already cracked right there. I have used Flex Seal tape or the Gorilla brand version. Many of the truck stops will carry the Flex Seal repair tape, and I have used that in a pinch. Well, that screw just snapped off. That's a bummer. Oh, man. These are all tight. I have used Flex Seal tape, and many of the truck stops carry that. All right, I'm going to come back and show you something different to try. Well, sometimes that works. This is the shake and break, and unfortunately it shook it and broke them all. But I will get a new one of these, so I guess that's coming off. But generally, to take this out, man, that's fragile. I think that's part of the problem. Somebody used a bunch of some kind of an adhesive in here instead of relying on actual seal. I don't know that I can drill those out. So we'll go around the other side. Here we are, driver's side. Yeah, they're already corroded all the way through. All right, well, like so many bus projects, this is becoming a bigger So I got two options. If I can find this part, which Napa should have, then I can replace these. Or I can take these off, clock these, and re-drill new holes and tap them all the way around, which will work if I can't find these, but that's going to be a pain in the ass. Let's go to the left side, the driver's side rear tag there. They got torque screws in there. All right, I'll be back. That looks like a T15. Nope. T20. No silver, that's a good sign. This kit was, I think retail was $15. We have an account, so it's less than that. I think it ended up being about $9 or so. You won't find many bus repair jobs that are cheaper than that. I will say this little shake and brake tool does work really well, but these screws were already clearly so corroded, it just snapped them off. But this is my smaller, little cheapy, like $15 air hammer. I've got bigger ones, but this one just works great for these small screws. You just apply some ready tat tat, and then a little twisting force that you do yourself. Well, that's not quite the right color. All right, these are the rear tags, and I have added gear oil just up to this line. So I'll put the cap in, do the other side, and then these will be done, at least in the back here. This little spout is just fantastic. And while I was trying to shoot video, I overfilled just a little bit, but I will run these and then I'll check them in a few miles. I had to do a little bit of trimming, so not quite perfect. Just the way this was cut, it was cut on the edge at a bevel. I don't know if you can see that, but it didn't quite fit in there without bunching up. So I just trimmed that bevel off the edge with the scissors, and I should be good now. All right, I have put the new O-ring in up there, and now it's time to install the filter housing. This is pretty messy, sorry, but here's my oil stash. I've got the Phillips 66, the TX5, which is a CF2 rated oil. I've got 5 gallons of the Miles, and then I've got a bunch of the Rotella T1. So today I am putting in the Rotella T1 primarily because it's in 1 gallon jugs, and the 5 gallon pails work fine, but then I use a pump and I pump it up into here since I've got plenty of the jugs and I like the Shell Rotella, then that's what I'm going to use today. I'll start pouring back in a minute. Rear hub caps, seal caps are done. Still got to get the fronts, but I finished the oil change, topped it off. All right, I'm going to leave it at this. I'll change those front hub caps and add the hub grease or hub oil and everything. And then Stevie's got new fluids. She deserves it. Have a great day, all. Thanks for being here. And back to me. I know I kind of wrapped up the video out front there, but I went to Napa and was able to get new caps. They're slightly different. The ones that were on here originally are Stemco, and it had a part number 4014 stamped inside. They've got 3 bolts that hold these on. The cross-reference now shows that the 4014 is no longer available. Instead, they have these, which are a Stemco part number 343409. It's got 6 holes. The alternative was a plastic version of this, but I want these as original as possible. And the nice thing about the metal ones is you can just replace this inner portion. I think both of these cost me, with my discount anyway, it cost me $60 for both of them. So I'm going to scrape this. And this little carbide scraper is fantastic, by the way. This is a Titan. I don't know who else makes them, but it's a scraper with a carbide end on it. And it'll let me get this surface here nice and clean so I can put that on. I was not very thrilled really to see the sort of brown in there that looks like some rust. So at some point, even though I didn't feel any resistance or roughness when I had this up on the jacks changing the tires out, that might be the indication that there's some corrosion, or potential for corrosion anyway, on the... I'm wiping that off while I'm talking to you guys. Sorry about that. Some potential for corrosion on the bearings. So before I take this out on the road anywhere other than just over to the storage yard and back, I'll end up pulling the wheels off, pull the wheel bearings out, and just inspect them and replace them if needed. So anyway, let's change out this cap. I'm not a big fan of large amounts of, sealant or anything, but I do put a very thin layer. You can see that's pretty thin, just to hold the gasket in place. And I use the JB Weld Ultimate Black. Works well. So this surface is nice and clean now. That's scraped off, and I went over it with just a little bit of lacquer thinner and a rag. It's dry, so I'll stick this on, and this RTV will help that gasket stick into place. And the same thing here, pretty thin layer just around there. And now I'll bolt that on. I don't know what the torque specs are on these, but I'm using my stubby wrench so I don't bust anything. I don't need them too tight, just enough so they seal. I will let this sit overnight since I'm not in a hurry, and then tomorrow I'll pull the cap off and just fill it up. All right, that is done. So I'll do the other side and wrap up the video now. Anyway, Stevie appreciates it. I appreciate it. It's a beautiful day. Thanks for being here.